I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the April 10th, 2024 council meeting in the municipality of South Dundas be opened at 6 p.m. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. We did not have a closed session tonight. Confirmation of agenda. Any additions, deletions, or amendments? We will do the delegations in a different order than listed, but otherwise everything is the same. I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay, item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none tonight, move to number 5, adoption of minutes. I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the minutes of the following meeting, including closed sessions, be adopted as presented, the meeting of March 27th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Vino, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we're going to start off on our delegations tonight. We're going to start off with the South Dundas Water and Wastewater Support Study. Tonight we have Josh Eamon and Robin Gandia from EVB Engineering. So welcome to Morrisburg and the municipality of South Dundas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So I'll give a so hello, my name is Robin Gandia, and yeah, I'll be sharing some a recent report that was done for the uncommitted reserve capacity for Iroquois and Morrisburg in South Dundas. So as an introduction, the uncommitted reserve capacity analysis for South Dundas was completed by EVB Engineering in 2024, and this presentation will summarize those findings. The uncommitted reserve capacity can be defined as the excess capacity available to the South Dundas wastewater and water treatment plant beyond current commitments or obligations. So the purpose of analyzing the uncommitted reserve capacity is to provide insight on future development allocation and strategic planning, and it can also help with just to make sure that you're not exceeding capacity. So just to kind of give an overview, we're going to start with some things that you must understand is the hydraulic reserve capacity, which is the plant design capacity minus the max day flow at the water treatment plant. So the plant design capacity is just the capacity of the plant, and the max day flow is the water consumption that has left the plant over a 24-hour period. This is found over analyzing data over a 5-year period and determining which one is the maximum amount of water. So that will be the hydraulic reserve capacity. So just to get an understanding, so let's say if your plant is at 50% capacity, that's not the complete capacity of your plant. You must also consider any committed residential or non-residential lots or commercial properties that the township has committed for future development. So then you go on to the second equation. The uncommitted reserve capacity will take your hydraulic reserve capacity, as we discussed before, and minus any committed non-in-service residential or non-residential properties. So, and below you can kind of see just an indication of a legend. I'll be showing a map in a previous slide, and you'll be able to see which lots are identified as residential, non-residential, and areas that are serviced, and also areas that are not in service. So the regional wastewater treatment plant, just to give a quick overview, the water system in the villages of Morrisburg and Iroquois is comprised of a water treatment plant, 2 elevated storage tanks, a transmission main, and booster station. So the total residential connected water services, Morrisburg has 1,097 connections, and Iroquois has 626 connections. The design capacity is 9,495 meters cubed per day. And then I have also listed some significant ICI users. So in Morrisburg, a significant ICI user would be Macintosh Country Inn at 24.56 meters cubed per day. In Iroquois, we have Ross Video at 12.76 meters cubed per day.
I can just interject just to expand on ICI is institutional, commercial, and industrial. So anybody that's non-residential, not the typical residential user.
So here's our map. Here we identify in red residential areas that are serviced, and green non-residential areas that are serviced. And then from there we also have committed residential areas not in service. That's in blue, as I've highlighted in the left bottom corner. 170 lots in Morrisburg. That will be the Dutch Meadow subdivision that's coming up. You can see the top, we have some neon. Those are future potential subdivisions that haven't been discussed as of yet, but are potential, but are not included in this calculation. And if you continue on, we also have Iroquois. Same principle. All red is residential areas that are serviced. Green are non-residential areas serviced. And in blue, we have committed residential areas not in service. We have 329 lots in Iroquois and the Valcroft subdivision that's composed of those. So just an overview. So when everything is said and done, we have an uncommitted reserve capacity of 2,678 meters cubed per day. That's when you considered the hydraulic reserve capacity and you minus all the committed not in service residential and non-residential lots. This is equivalent to an available residential lots of 980, and then the plant operating capacity is at 51%. So for the wastewater treatment plant, we both have Morrisburg and Iroquois. These are separate systems, and they both discharge into the St. Lawrence River. The Morrisburg wastewater treatment plant has a total connected residential lots of 1,020 sanitary connections, and it has a design capacity of 4,608 meters cubed per day. Iroquois, on the other hand, has 607 sanitary connections and a design capacity of 3,300 meters cubed per day. So it's very similar to the water treatment plant calculation. We have our hydraulic reserve capacity, we have our plant design, but we minus the average day flow at the wastewater treatment plant. And likewise, we look over a period of 5 years and we do an average between all the 5 years, and that's the value that we use to minus from the plant design. And very similar to the other one, the hydraulic reserve capacity is only what's existing and what's connected. And then after that, we have to further analyze any future committed residential, non-residential lots that the municipality has allocated in the future. So from there, same thing, we use the same legend, and yeah, if we continue forward, it's very similar to the wastewater, the water treatment plant kind of look. However, Stewart Street and I think Fairholme Street are unconnected areas for sanitary. Dutch Meadows subdivision is also included as the committed residential area that's not in service. So that equates to 244 lots.
Yeah, so, sorry, just to expand on that, like Robin pointed out, Stewart Street has water, not sanitary, so we've included that in the calculation as committed. Obviously, you guys want to make sure that you're allocating capacity in the facility in the future if that street ever does get tied into your sewage treatment system.
And continuing forward, this is very similar to the water treatment plant. We have the Valcroft subdivision and a few other properties that we have placed as committed residential areas that are not in service. 322 lots for that. So I believe this is for the Morrisburg wastewater treatment plant. So we have an uncommitted reserve capacity of 2,144 meters cubed per day. When you subtract from the hydraulic reserve capacity, the committed areas for non-residential and residential. So from there, we have 1,361 residential lots available to the town, or to the municipality, and the plant operating capacity is at 44%. For Iroquois, we have 836 meters cubed per day of uncommitted reserve capacity. This equates to 531 lots, residential lots, and the plant is operating at a capacity of 58%. So in quick summary, we just kind of put some slides together, and the regional water treatment plant, we have 2,678 meters cubed per day, which is equivalent to 980 lots that we can service. The Morrisburg wastewater treatment plant, the available capacity is 2,144, which is equivalent to 1,361 lots. And Iroquois wastewater treatment plant, the available capacity is 836 meters cubed per day, which is equivalent to 531 lots. So, yeah, and that was our findings for the report. And any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Gandia. Thank you, Mr. Eamon. Questions, comments from the council team? Councilor Ward.
I have a few questions, and maybe you can, the first one I want to start off with, Mayor, if I may, is Ebonic was mentioned in the calculation, and they're not a large user, but I was under the impression that, and I maybe look to Mr., or to Dennis as well, is it, to answer that question. I just noticed the service line cut off, so it's not even on your picture.
You'd have to take a look at the maps to see, it won't change the findings of the calculation, but maybe you have to look at the maps to make sure the maps are reflective of what's being serviced. When we're doing the calculation, we're looking at what's actually leaving the facility. So, yeah, like I said, it won't affect the findings of the calculation, but it's a fair comment. We will take a look at the maps and make sure that they're updated to reflect the Ebonic being serviced.
Okay. And then I just
continue.
a few other questions. So looking at the capacity for water, I'm just out of curiosity. So you use max daily demand, which is fine. So you're allocating 2.73 cubic meters per lot per day.
Yes.
That's a lot of water. Like, is that because, and this is a genuine question, is that because you're incorporating IC&I demand? Because not every lot's going to be residential, right? We could have IC&I. Is that an average? Is that why you use the 2.73? Because it is quite high for an average residential lot. Is that how?
It was through the calculations that we've found that. We did use from, like for sanitary, the theoretical value, but for that one we used it based off of data that we've collected. We can take a look at that and see, but otherwise it was from the consumption. That's what we found from, we took from like all the existing, what was being left, and that's what we found, but.
So that is actually where it's not going to look at the point you brought up previously with the Ebonic, it's not going to change what's remaining under the capacity available.
Right.
But that is one where it may affect the findings in that how we do the calculation is you look at your maximum day flow over a 5-year period, so you look at your worst day over 5 years, and then how we do it and how the calculation is done is you have to then subtract your commitment. And how do you determine the commitment for your existing users? The calculation recommends that you look at what for your future users, take a look at what the existing users are actually consuming or generating. And then with like a lot of municipalities like Wurzburg and a lot of our other neighboring municipalities, there's a major I&I issue. So a lot of times we'll go back and say, well, it doesn't make sense to go and apply what the existing users are, or what kind of sewage generation rates on a per capita basis, because it's not indicative of what the future developments are going to have. Like no one's tying foundation drains in anymore.
Right.
The sump pumps aren't tied in. Roof drains are going where they're supposed to be. There's storm sewers on the streets. So we're seeing a lot lower sewage generation rates from new developments. So we'll do a theoretical calculation, still conservative. Like, I think we use 3.5 persons per lot and 450 liters per capita per day for the sewage for residential. And so a lot of times, you guys, this is the second one I've had to do, and I'm going to do a third. You guys, it's all good news. So we're not really worrying about how much capacity is remaining because you have so much. But a lot of times when we're getting down to that final little 10 or 15%, you really start narrowing down those calculations. And so what happened with the water is we just did the actual calculation. So we took the ICI users out of the max day flow and then distributed the remainder on a per lot basis. Okay. So this is how much per lot. So what may happen is if we take Ebonic and Ebonic was actually missed, and it may or may not, I don't have the report in front of me, but if it was missed, what that'll do is reduce the amount of flow on the non-ICI users. So it might show that we're actually able to service more lots.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering.
That we're showing.
Okay, no.
But it's very possible that it was part of the calculation and just not shown in the spreadsheet because it wasn't high enough to meet the top list.
Okay, no, thank you. That answers thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Broad. Josh, just, I know you were part of the previous engineering group that I think designed, was it the water and the wastewater plants? Do you just recall, and I'm just playing a little bit of old tapes here, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because this is the good news story, but it just seems like our plants have been oversized for quite a while. Is that just because we thought maybe the council of the day, staff of the day thought the growth was going to increase at a higher rate than it actually has occurred, or?
Truthfully, my involvement was more on the design and less on the EA. It's the environmental assessment really made all those decisions. So truthfully, I'm not 100% sure, but I do know like you had some industries that called having a brain fart, not called, well, that's all I here, but the Iroquois industry that the.
Codwell didn't?
Yeah,
Codwell.
they were part of the calculation. So there was a huge amount of water allocated to them. And I'm trying to remember in Washburn, there was something else that affected it. But yeah, to say oversized, I mean, I don't know, I think that they had to make assumptions for growth, was my recollection, and I think they might have been, or we might have been conservative in those assumptions. I also recall that in their funding applications at the time, you weren't allowed to apply for growth in the application, but you also had to come up with a calculation on what that growth was part, so you know, going through the calculations, and you were able to justify the means kind of thing. And the township at the time got, if memory serves me correctly, 90% funding, I think it was.
That was pretty big,
Yeah,
pretty high,
so-
what I recall as well.
Yeah, like I would say that it's a win for the municipality.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
said, I'm not joking when I say I just did one like a week ago, and it was, one was over capacity and one was at 97. We're sitting there trying to figure out how they're going to upgrade their 2 sewage plants in their community, you know, so.
Right, no, I appreciate that, it was just more of a history, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, certainly a good news story, and that's what we expected. And we wanted to fund this study and get the details because we wanted to get away from, we have lots of water, or we have lots of capacity, and really know what we have as we entertain, interest in our community, and, what we have to offer for resident growth, or if there's any industrial, commercial type growth. So I think this was a key, and I know this was just a high level presentation, but I know we have the details in the study, and it'll be something that we'll revisit in a year or two when we add in, right, to know where we go along, because I think it's really important as folks come to South Dundas interested in the data that we can say, hey, we have this much to offer going forward, and any funding we're looking for in other developments, we have this capacity available. So I think it's really important that we now officially have this data for our development team to use.
Yeah, just another quick one. It was to Dennis. So is this the last phase, or is there any other phase to our program that we wanted to just remind me if this was, what was the next steps for us?
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Broad, we're actually, we're going to be working on the second phase. Robin's actually coming down. She's going to put some more flow meters in, I believe like next week or so, or whatever, whenever they, we're going to be putting them in, and we'll be collecting data as the spring. We'll get the spring runoff there. And then that'll be the second phase, and then the third phase, they'll be wrapping it up, correct?
Yeah, if I could just but yeah, this is kind of, we're now looking at what's at the end of the pipe.
Yeah.
And how much you can actually take at the end of the pipe, which is good and an important point, but it's also not how we get there. Right? So
Yeah.
we haven't looked at the collection systems yet. And so we know obviously you're very well aware of some strategic large projects coming in. We want to make sure that the collection system has the capacity. We've picked up all of the as-built information. We have our models generated for both villages now. We're now collecting flow data so that we can calibrate our models from theoretical, where we think everyone's just flushing the toilet. So today we're, in fact, at half the sump pumps are tied. We're kind of going through that model calibration, and there's still some steps to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, at least up front, this is our first step on the capacity, for sure. Yeah.
And through you, Mayor Broad, we're targeting the areas that we know the development is growing right now, so them are the areas we're actually targeting, like with Valcraft. We know that's a first step up in Iroquois, and then we know some of the other new projects coming on, that's the other areas we're going to start targeting.
Very good. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Mayor, I was just gonna say, I think this is still a very important, maybe obligation's not the right word, but I think thanks for our council and for municipal staff. I think this is our investment, is the word I was thinking of, in ensuring that when developers, whether they're large or small or local or out, we've invested, the time and the effort to get this data, which some people may say, well, developers should be paying all that. But to me, this is our investment in that important step. So when they're looking at land, at least they've got the data here in front of them. And I see Josh is kind of shaking his head, who works with other municipalities. I'm assuming you would agree with that,
Oh, yeah.
Josh, as well. It's a great investment to have. It's a great tool. I know that the engineers on the Velcraft site, I'm not involved in it personally, but Velcraft, the information that's been provided to them has been very useful and very helpful, and a big step that it doesn't delay that initial process in collecting all of that data, because it's there available for them. So I think it's a great investment in terms of growth.
Excellent. All right. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and excellent report, excellent follow-ups.
Thank you.
See you guys. Good job, Robin.
Okay, next on the agenda, we move to the Upper Canada District School Board. We have Cam Jones with us tonight to give a presentation about the real world learning. So welcome, Mr. Jones. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me, folks. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you what is ultimately the work of our students and our teachers in the communities that are within the Upper Canada District School Board, including, of course, your community. And this work really is captured in Executive Superintendent Eric Hardy's book, The Relevant Classroom, and is now a key pillar of the strategic plan for the Upper Canada District School Board. And so really what my goal is today is to give you a quick sense of what we mean by real-world learning, and let the students then tell you the stories of what that looks like in classrooms in your community and beyond. Slide, please. So I thought I'd start here. This learning doesn't look a lot like maybe what we experienced in our own classrooms during our own education. It looks a little bit different. And that's because the contextualized curriculum that we are playing with is absolutely front and center. We are doing reading and writing and math in the same context that you would have been familiar with as a student. However, we're contextualizing that curriculum with meaning and purpose for the student first. What do they care about? What problems do they want to solve? And how can we contextualize the curriculum so that what they're doing in the classroom is working on those problems, and along the way, they're learning to read and write and do math. They're also contributing in their communities. So they see themselves in their communities, they see their learning in their communities, and indeed the community sees them as contributors to the community, solving problems, working on projects in the community. And in that way, what we are finding is our students are incredibly connected to their schools and to their peers and to their communities. They feel like they are seen and like they have a place that they fit. And we're doing this K to 12, kindergarten to grade 12. We're finding students are having this ability to express, I'm feeling connected to school, I feel like I have a purpose in my community, and I want to do more work like this. Slide, please. You will have seen in the Ottawa Citizen that Dr. John Richardson is actually doing some research on real-world learning right now as it pertains to deep learning and engagement. His early findings are, again, that we're seeing students, in fact, needing to redefine what engagement is, because what we're seeing in the classrooms is not something that's been documented effectively in academia or indeed in practice. And so what does that learning actually look like? This is not an exhaustive list, but it's a place to start. We have students that are creating social enterprises, businesses within their schools that serve a purpose larger than the revenue that they generate, and then they turn that revenue into, say, another social enterprise or a charity or a food bank that they're working for. They're publishing books, they're making original music, they're making short films, they're putting on theater productions, which we'll come back to a little later. They're leading change in their communities. They're working on things like food insecurity and home insecurity. They're looking at ideas like, how can we make our classroom a place that actively works on climate change as the learning that we're doing? All the time community connected, all the time trying to breathe life back into their communities. One of the projects that you're going to see from your very own community is actually looking at the service files of soldiers from the Great War from this community, and then telling those stories to the community, stories that really have been lost in service files for over 100 years. Slide, please. Folks might be familiar because just down, I think a block away, Seaway District High School last year was timber framing. This is inspired by a project that's done very well in Elmont, where students timber frame structures that are then introduced into the community in your parks and places where folks congregate. This is a really important project Because what we have then is students making things that when they walk by, they can say, I made that. And they can tell themselves that, and their families that, and their peers that. And then in that way, they're connected to this space. I made that. Slide, please. You also have students at Seaway District High School, and I'm sure there's folks on council who are familiar with this, who are growing food to work on things like food insecurity. That project is actually extended to this idea of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Can we solve for hunger? These students at Seaway are solving for hunger in the ways that they can. If you go to the next slide, that's turning into an extension then. Can we work on hunger, and can we also work on climate? And can that be the learning experience that we're using to learn all that curriculum that we need to pull out of school? Slide, please. Indeed, just across the field, we have the same thing happening at Iroquois Public School. Again, students are growing in their zip gardens out of Zip Grow from Cornwall and donating that food to the community food share. Slide, please. Indeed, I mentioned this earlier, students from Morrisburg Public School are working on service files and looking at your cenotaph and trying to bring those stories back to life. I would invite anyone attending that on May 27th, we're actually going to showcase that work from across the board, and Morrisburg Public School will be one of the schools that we're featuring, telling the story of what they've found and the stories that they want to tell to the community and beyond. We have students at TIS and Brockville looking at things like housing insecurity and poverty, but they're not looking at it in theory, they're solving it in practice. And you may have seen this in the media, that they've done things like created the treasure chest in the school so that students who don't have access to clothing, food, products that they may need can have access to that anonymously, go into the room and get what you need. They then reached out to the community, and the community started to contribute. This project is now an inter-high school project with BCI, and there's all kinds of work that's sort of organically growing out of students saying, this is a problem in our school, and we're not willing to wait around anymore to figure out what the adults are going to do to solve it, so we're going to solve it. And we're going to go ask the community to contribute as we work on this problem. Slide, please. We had students in Van Cleek Hill in grades 7 and 8 create a pop-up hot chocolate shop, now 2 years running around Christmas time. And their goal was to raise funds by making custom orders for all the students K to 8 in that building. And indeed, last year they donated over $3,000 to CHIO. Why CHIO? Because when the teacher asked the students, what cause should we be working towards, some of the students in that classroom had spent time in CHIO, knew that CHIO was fundraising, and said that's where we should direct our money. Slide, please. This is a project out of Fitzroy Provincial Park, but it could be out of any provincial park. Students spent the entire year working with the park to figure out all kinds of things that they were interested in. And what did they do with their learning? Well, they created digital and physical resources that are now standing in that park for as long as they last for people to interact with. So effectively, they've created the interactive projects that as you walk around the park, you would engage with. Slide, please. These are students also in Elmont working with Orchard View residents, a retirement home. One of the things that the activity coordinator said to the students was a challenge was getting folks to be active and outside again after COVID. There had been so long that they'd been stuck inside that there had been a habit. How can we help break that habit? Students at Elmont built 4 installations for mini putt because the residents suggested that was something they were interested in, and they also built effectively a 4-wheel drive drink cart that could go outside on the lawn, and residents could have tea and drinks and be outside and interact with students. Slide, please. Playing on that intergenerational theme, you may have seen in the media around November that Kemptville Public School actually has young students going on a weekly basis to visit with their grand pals. Where that project goes, we don't know, but what we've seen is students creating biographies of their grand pals, getting into letter writing campaigns, learning about things the grand pals want to talk about, and then going and having those conversations with them. So again, another intergenerational project. Just a number of weeks ago, students at PCPS in Van Cleek Hill published their first books. And in attendance, again, Executive Superintendent Eric Hardy was there as an author, internationally recognized Professor of Education Andy Hargraves was there as well, and there because the students were publishing their book. When I walked into the classroom, it was literally standing room only because the room was full as the students talked about what it was like to be authors and illustrators. Slide, please. This is a project out of Gananoque where with the Thousand Islands Playhouse for 2 years running, we've had Young Company. This is a project that may sound familiar, but actually looks very different because students are involved in the putting on of a theater production from beginning to end, including all of the construction, set design, prop design, through to staging the play for the community and beyond. Something I'd love to talk a little bit more about when we get to the Upper Canada Playhouse and an opportunity to do something like that in your own boundaries. Slide, please. This is a project in Perth. Clean Water Matters. Students found out that there was a young girl about their age who had to travel for miles to get clean water where she lived on the African continent. They could not believe it. And when the teacher said to them, this is also something that is happening to folks in our own backyard, they wouldn't stand for it. And so they spent the rest of the school year advocating their project, Clean Water Matters, raising funds to put water filters in some Indigenous communities that need them with Indigenous partners, and really drew the community's attention to this issue. And they were in grade 2 and grade 3. They wrote an original song, they created a community walk for water, and really have challenged our school board to look at this issue and work on this issue with them. Slide, please. Last two stories that I wanted to bring to your attention simply because they were the last stories that I learned last week on Friday. This is Montague Public School just outside Smiths Falls. Two really interesting projects coming out of this school. The first is grade 7 and 8 students who are in core French, so there's learning, the basics of French, have decided that they're going to create a French cafe in their school. And what they're going to do is host the cafe for the rest of the school in French. And so you have students who are learning the basics of French with other students learning the basics of French while eating from a local bakery and talking about what they're eating and ordering and doing all the math connected to, sales and what have you. The other project that I think might be a kind of a neat place for us to start a conversation is the township has land around the school. And they have plans for that land. This is the map that I was given on Friday, very high-level plans about what they'd like to do there. And this meeting was about having a conversation how the Montague students, and indeed the students at Smiths Falls District High School and other elementary schools in the community could actually not only contribute to the vision, but do the work to realize what that vision is. And so when we left that meeting, we had agreed that students were going to look at designing what was called a play area, a boardwalk, outdoor education center. What would they want there? They'll consult the community and they'll have a hand in putting together what will eventually stand there for that idea. Slide, please. And so I think the reason that I'm here today is to celebrate the stories of students and teachers and what they are up to in their own communities. But I would suggest to you that I'm also here for another reason, which is I would like to tell more of these stories in South Dundas. And a key component of real-world learning is working with community partners. And indeed, in this room, we have all kinds of community partners to talk with to say, what can our students do in your community and contribute to your community as the learning experience in school? We have students at Seaway very worried about sustainable development goals and working on those. And of course, really our shared work is the sustainable development goals. I was at a conference in January and a keynote speaker said, the way that you address all the other sustainable development goals is through education. And in the boundaries of the municipality of South Dundas and beyond, we have all kinds of students who want to work on these problems in collaboration with their communities. And so, as the slide says, I put it to you, what stories can we begin to write together? Slide, please. Very quickly, if you want to see some more of these stories or engage with emerging stories as they come, a bunch of options to do that in various places, including the podcast. And I would welcome questions or conversations.
Great, well, thank you, Mr. Jones. CEO Mills, Director Jansen, and myself had the opportunity several weeks ago to go up to Iroquois Seaway High School and met with some of the teachers and some of the individuals involved with this program, and kind of got the first little introduction to the real world learning situation. So one of the requests was from that meeting for a delegation tonight to bring up all of council and the community up to speed on things that are going on, have already happened and are happening. And I know we've always had good partnerships with our schools, certainly with Seaway last year with the timber, we were part of that. The pop-up shops were getting painted and the cleanup day, lots of activities. And we were just that day when we were in Iroquois Seaway, brainstorming ideas, how could this go? And we have Iroquois Beach has a canteen, could a project be, how could the students make that profitable to make donations? How could they make that operation work, right? From a business standpoint, mass standpoint, and of course, our waterfronts, our parks, all, you could be involved with the committees in some way to build things, sell things. So we were thinking of lots of ideas. So just a question for me, and I'll let other council have questions too, is what do we need to do next? What do you need from us to get anything going, rolling?
I appreciate the question. I was actually on your website for the last couple of nights brainstorming that same question, anticipating it. And I would say this, I think really there's nothing that's out of bounds. I think whether you bring that to the school itself or you reach out to me to sort of get that conversation going, either way will work. I know, another example of a project that might be great is the Grand Trunk train that's up at Upper Canada Village. When I was in Ottawa, there was a tech teacher who was restoring a streetcar that was 150 years old with students, and you have extremely talented educators at Seaway who could absolutely take on a project like that. And so I think really just to start the conversation with ideas that you have, and then knowing that you have a team of folks on the board who would love to support you to get that rolling.
Yeah, and I definitely will be next door at Moisford Public School for May 27th for that activity for sure. So that's super exciting. Yeah, questions or comments? Yeah, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Braun. I just think this presentation is a little bit of a glimpse of how important the students have that direct rural connection to the rural people and the rural communities in Ontario. And I think we've got to continue showcasing that. I sit on an ad hoc education committee on the county's level, and one of the things we keep discussing is how do we get our schools to be a community hub? And as I'm listening, and I read and I'm listening more and more, I think there's a great opportunity that we can become, our schools can be, not just one school, but all of our schools can be that community hub. So yeah, I think we should encourage, I think we should be involved, I think we should try to get our rural communities more involved. And to be quite honest with you, when the provincial government does lift the moratorium on the next pupil accommodations review, this gives us the tool to say to the province, we are important, rural schools are important, this is one aspect of it, it's not just about the learning, the math, and the English, which is extremely important. But when I look, and it's funny when you brought up the slide of the timber frame, and I mean I could see myself at Upper Canada Village when my dad worked there as a timber framer, and I'm going, geez, it would have been nice if that was, and it probably wasn't. Maybe I just didn't pay attention. I wasn't interested in it. But if that was part of the school system back then, and really that hands-on. That's impactful. To me, that's impactful. So, yeah, I definitely think South Dundas needs to work and be a partner in this program, and to showcase what rural schools actually have to offer. Because I think it's a direct link. That's my opinion, anyways. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Councilor Ward?
Thank you for your presentation. I would say that education has come a long way since I was in school as well, and all these opportunities look really great. And I think that students are very fortunate they have good educators that are helping them contribute to the community and showing them that skill set. I think from my perspective, and maybe this is a question for council, is, you know, we have our youth advisory group, and I'm not sure how many applicants we have at the moment, but I know in the past that there has been some issues retaining, you know, youth to that committee, and maybe that's something we can work with yourself and the teachers on, and maybe we need to approach that youth advisory group a little differently, and maybe this is how we approach it. Maybe just revamping that and seeing if we get more interest that way, and maybe making it student or children, like they lead it and they tell us, you know, kind of where we need to go. And I think from my perspective, that would be a huge benefit, because we want our children to also stay in our community as well, right? So if they can voice their opinion on a committee and that comes to council, then we can help make those decisions. That would be, to me, a huge asset. So if that's something maybe staff could reach out to them with the terms of reference, and maybe we can take a glimpse and see where we're going astray, or where we could maybe align better with your goals as well, that maybe we could do that.
Yeah, no?
Very good.
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
point.
Very good. Councilor Smith?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Thanks for your presentation. I'm a big podcast guy, so I'm going to try and check out your podcast at some point in time. And my oldest son is currently painting one of the pop-up shops at Iroquois right now. So I don't think whenever I was in high school, I ever got a chance to go out of the school and paint anything. Right. So he's getting the chance to now. So I asked him what color it was. He said indigenous. Right. So I don't really know what color that is, but I guess
We'll find out. No, excellent.
So that's
Sure.
excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, the skills, you know, the skills may not translate into the profession, but to have skills at home, right? That's the other piece of it, right? So, yeah. Very good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate Mr. Jones for coming tonight, and we'll definitely be in contact with the group and through the teachers already, so thank you very much.
The opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, our third delegation tonight, Roseburg Affordable Housing Development Updates. Melissa Morgan and Lisa Smith are here, so welcome tonight.
So thank you, Mayor Broad and members of council. My name is Melissa Morgan. I'm the General Manager of Human Services and Long-Term Care, representing the City of Cornwall, United Counties of SDNG. And with me this evening is Lisa Smith, Manager of Housing Services. We're very excited to be here this evening to present to you the progress we've been making with the expansion of our Morris Glen site that is currently just to the east of us here. So we're going to give you some particulars of what that new expansion is going to contain, and then Lisa's going to walk you through some of the renderings to give you an idea of what that can look like. So if we can go to the next slide. So I will say part of our excitement is this is probably the first community housing development we have brought to the counties in over 15 years. And so we're very excited by that fact. Certainly this is one of many projects that we are looking at in our long-term development plan across the City of Cornwall and the United Counties. So this is phase one of a two-phase expansion at the Morris Glen current site. We actually opened the tender today, so that is an update from that slide. So the tender process is open right now, so we are eagerly awaiting to see who will submit bids on that. We are anticipating the start of construction then to be this summer, with anticipated move-in date for fall of 2025. The new facility will contain 17 units, all of which are two-bedroom units. 5 are barrier-free, and this is a three-floor building, so those barrier-free units will be contained across all 3 floors. It will be above grade with an elevator, and all of the paths of travel will be barrier-free. So we will be able to accommodate a diverse group of individuals within the new building. There we go to the next slide. Lisa will walk us through some of the renderings.
Great. So what you see before you is essentially how the planned building and first phase will align to the existing community housing project that is at Morris Glen. So what you can see is just there, kind of in the middle is the first phase that we're proceeding with, so those 17 unit building. Off to the right there would be our planned phase 2. So again, like, we will have to look at moving forward, like when we would be proceeding with that, but you can see where we're going with the plan, and the intention is the elevator structure that we're putting into the building would be able to link into that second phase. So we have tried to pre-anticipate future growth in this design. Next slide, please. So what you can see is the external facade, what you would see from the highway and the parking lot. So we tried to keep it modern. We wanted our housing moving forward to kind of move from that standard community housing feel that you would have seen when it was developed under either the Ontario Housing Corporation or even Cornwall and Area Housing Corporation. So we are trying to keep things looking fresh, crisp, and modern. Next slide, please. This would be the view if you were kind of standing behind the building on the grass. So you can, off to the left there, see the existing structure and the back of the new structure and what it will look like. This rendering is of an example of the internal main floor and what it's going to look like. So what you can see are essentially the main entrance there to the top right. So you would come into a main vestibule, kind of mail area. And then you would proceed in through the building. So you can roughly see the layout of the apartments and how they're going to work against each other. On this floor as well, we also have plans for like our own internal needs around a maintenance room, things like that, in order to store supplies and keep the facility, you know, to the standards around cleanliness that we have. There off to the back is like a small garage area for us as well, and the laundry facilities for the space. So this just kind of gives you a feel of what it's going to essentially be laid out like. Next slide, please. So this is the interior lobby view. So again, you can see, again with our community housing practice is really, we want to bring fresh, modern, lots of natural light, that essentially if you were to walk in this facility, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is a community housing building. This could be where anybody is living. And that's tying into our philosophy of doing more work around mixed rental communities, where we're trying to bring diverse populations together to break some of the stigma down around community housing. Next slide, please. So once you're kind of through that main glassed controlled entry area, this would be what a tenant would walk into. You can see it's kind of their mail area. Again, very open, lots of natural light. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what a typical washroom is going to look like. So again, our consulting design team has done a great job about, this could look like an apartment that anybody else would live in. Again, we're big believers in that just because you're in community housing doesn't mean you should live in an apartment that isn't as nice as someone in the private market. So again, even the materials and the approach they use, while it looks very modern, very frankly expensive, the materials they select are very cost effective and would be included and represented in our tender. Next slide, please. So this is a really great example of what the barrier-free accessible bathrooms look like. This is a really key design for us. What you can see is that it's a completely roll-in shower, so if someone's in an assistive device, they can clearly get in. You see there's a transfer bench, and you can even see they're within easy reach of all the controls around the shower units. So we always push this with our design teams, that these units are really in place to help support someone to live respectfully within their own home. Next slide, please. So this is what a typical kitchen would look like. So you can see, you know, it's pretty practical, pretty standard. But again, there's been thought put into lighting and ease of use. So like while it's a galley style, it's a very open floor plan. So you can see where the living space and the kitchen space blend nicely together. Next slide, please. So this would be an example of the accessible kitchen. So what you can see is it's a in cupboard mounted stove, meaning if you are in a wheelchair, you are able to pull that down very easily. Even the countertop stove is all within reach, and you can see clearly under the stove and the sink, lots of room, right, to be sitting there, you know, potentially in an assistive device, doing your, you know, functions of cooking and cleaning and all those important things. Next slide, please. So that's just essentially high level of the renderings. But as we move into questions, more than happy to answer any questions on that, but I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned earlier, this is one of the projects in our long-term development plan. We're actively working with all of our county partners in the city to investigate all housing options, and so hopefully this is the first of many that we will build in the counties. Certainly phase one of a two-phase within Morrisburg, and certainly looking if there are other opportunities within the counties that we could expand. Happy to have those conversations as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the update. Certainly, we've been inquisitive, and we chat occasionally at other events and see where we're at. So it was great that we could give the council and the residents of South Dundas an update on where we were. A short time ago, we had the announcement with Minister Clark out front here. So glad to see we're to tender already, and we'll have something to move into 18 months. So that's good to get that first phase underway, hopefully phase two. And we do know that the council, we've had conversations about other properties, and we've had some discussions. We'll continue to have those discussions in our future council meetings to see what we can offer up for sure. Looks great. Super happy to see that. Comments, questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Thank you, Lisa, Melissa, for coming and doing the presentation. Certainly is exciting for us and exciting for you guys as well. I apologize if you said what I'm going to ask. I was kind of getting fascinated by some of the renderings, but are all your units accounted for already, or is there a waiting list, or how is that?
So there is a waiting list. So we maintain a housing wait list. What we'll probably do with this facility then is when we're ready to open it, we will go to our waiting list and we will select individuals that have been waiting the longest. When we come to phase two is going to be a little trickier because what we're probably going to try and plan with phase two is that our building in Winchester, we would probably, we're looking at whether we would demolish that and rebuild that, and so we would relocate those residents to our phase two for the time being until that is redeveloped, and then we would. So it's a little bit trickier in timing on the phase two, but we do maintain a wait list, and so these units will be snapped up pretty quick. I'm going to turn to Lisa because I can't remember honestly if all 17 units are RGI, if we're doing mixed income in this as well, and so if we're doing mixed income, we would have to go out and seek applications in the community for the near market units that we would be offering.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, our plan would be to do mixed market units. We know there's definitely an interest from the residents of Morrisburg to have access to what we would call attainable market level rents, which is more competitive but still affordable. Again, it just ties into that philosophy of let's bring folks of different backgrounds together to kind of really create a community. So.
Good, thank you. And I was going to ask what the trigger was for the phase two. I know some time ago you visited us as well about some properties in Iroquois, and I'm just wondering if you were thinking your way through that yet, or if that's you want to get through this first phase and then kind of move over to other properties. Just kind of wondering what your thinking was at this time.
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have approached some time ago all of the councils within the city and the counties to talk about vacant land, municipally owned vacant land, because in the next phase in what Lisa and I want to do as part of our long-term plan on housing was to create a long-term development plan. So following the meetings that we came to council and councils in turn offering some of those municipally owned lands, we have hired a consultant, and that consultant is currently in the process of creating our long-term development plan. We have visited all of the properties. They are qualified planners that we have hired, and so what they have done is they have assessed the properties that have been noted, and they have brought some recommendations or comments back to us with respect to the viability or feasibility of expanding or developing on some of these properties. And so we have been out to Morrisburg, Iroquois, to look at those properties. Certainly they're in the probably 3/4 of the way through their report right now in their study. And so we will be bringing that long-term development plan report back to City Council and County Council. Certainly if South Dundas would like us to come back and provide some information on that, we'd be happy to do that as well. But there's been nothing definitive in terms of a final report as of this time.
Through you, Mayor Broad, I think we would like to proceed with some further detailed discussions through, obviously, CAO Mills and Clerk LeBrun, so if you could do that. Just one other quick question. It's just ironic that you were doing a presentation today and you said that the tender opened. I actually was getting my hair cut this morning, and a local builder was asking about the tender. Just curious, what process do you use for the tender? Like, is it on a specific site that they can go? Is it through City of Cornwall? What's the...
So Lisa was in that meeting this morning, so I'll let her field that question.
Right, so through you, Mr. Mayor, our purchasing department uses an open and competitive bidding process, so it is posted on, I think we have a link on our City of Cornwall website called Bids and Tenders, as well as, I believe there's other options to view that information as well. That's something that I could actually go away and get back with a more comprehensive answer, because while I participate in the tender process, like our purchasing department leads all of that, but it is open, competitive, well communicated.
Yeah, he's a builder, so I'll give him a shout. Just tell him to go to the City of Cornwall website. He'll know where to go from there. He was just more curious if it was through the Cornwall website or if there was another selected process for it. So no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation as well.
If you would like, if he would like, he can email me directly, and I can connect him into all the people he would need to know and where to go.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. You can just make sure we got your proper contact info.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ward.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. So I just want to say thank you. You guys are making a huge difference. I know it seems like to some it seems like a slow process, but having known you the last couple of years, I see extreme progress, and I am extremely happy to see that in 18 months, like the mayor said, we're going to have 17 two-bedroom apartments available, and the fact that it's mixed use, like, so there will be some market, I'm not sure what the term you use, market,
Obtainable market.
Obtainable market, that's awesome, and I think the fact that it's two-bedroom is great too, because it speaks to families as well, right? So I just wanted to say thank you. I know it's a lot of work, and these are beautiful renderings, and I think from my perspective, it'll be a welcome addition to our community, and I really appreciate all the work and making us considering us for this build, so that was great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, ladies, for being here tonight, and see you at county council meeting, I'm sure. Yes, yeah. Okay, no action requests tonight. We'll move to number 8, bylaws under 8A, the Glenn Becker, Ruben Matthijs, Van Morsel, our third reading. Clerk LeBrun.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Brown, and through you. The report and bylaw in front of you tonight is the third reading to accept the updated assessment schedule for the Glenn Becker, Ruben Matthijs, and Van Morsel Municipal Drain. So as council would remember, Monica Shade from the Shade Group presented the engineer's report through a delegation to council on January 26th. The following meeting was, I'm just making my dates right here. So the report was presented on the 26th. We held a quarter revision, which allowed any property owners who are on that municipal drain to make an appeal to the quarter revision. There were no appeals received. Therefore, we're bringing this third reading of the bylaw here tonight for approval.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, I have a motion that bylaw number 2024-29, being a bylaw to adopt the third reading, section 76, engineer's report for the Glenn Becker, Ruben Matthijs, and Van Morsel Municipal Drain, be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed. Moved by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. Okay, boards and committees. So SDG Library Board meeting. So I was at a SDG Library Board meeting. We were at Ingleside, great visit and a great branch at a great location. A few highlights from the meeting. We did review the statistics and summaries, and one thing with the libraries, we found that new memberships is leveling out, but we are seeing an increase of activities from the current members, so we increasing on that. The communication and marketing report, well underway. There's lots of activities happening. We're going to kick off SDG Reads again here in another month, so that's going to be a big activity for the libraries, and we highlighted all the different activities going on in the library. So please check out the websites, in our 3 branches, Morrisburg, Iroquois, Williamsburg, lots of activities. And Rebecca Luck was here last meeting, as you recall, and gave a presentation. So lots of activity on that. So it was a good meeting as we continue working on that. One of the things we did review at that meeting was a new library lease agreement. So that will be something that we'll see come to council in the future through Director Jansen, as he was on that committee as we're updating all the leases. And as you know, we own the 3 buildings the libraries are in, so we'll be the beneficiary of those new leases when they're ready. Second item, emergency control group. So if I put these on, I wouldn't be able to see at all, my Eclipse glasses. So we did have the eclipse on Monday. So a couple of things to say with that. The emergency control group, we stood up our membership and the act on Monday, and we did execute a mock exercise during that, and then waited to see if we would have to respond to any activities. And we didn't have any direct activities other than maybe a car got stuck, got off the road a little too far. But we had an excellent event. Fire Chief Jeremy Hughes Eldred did an excellent job leading the team. CEO Mills obviously led the team overall in that, so I want to commend them on that control group and the management group. For the eclipse, super happy, A, to see it for myself. It was spectacular, and B, we welcomed a lot of visitors to the area. Folks that didn't even plan to come to South Dundas did, because it was cloudy to the west. And we certainly had a lot of support throughout the municipality, and I do want to thank them from CEO Mills and Fire Chief Eldred Hughes leading that team. Obviously, our water crews, Director Villeneuve with his team, the roads department, Director Hyman, and David Jansen with the rec department had all the porta potties in place, garbage is in place, toured around building. Andrew, Justin, with their team were out and about, so that went really well. And the fire stations were active, and we had barbecue lunch for all of staff on the days, and do a little bit of team building camaraderie in each of the areas, which was really well received. Also wanted to thank some of our partners, certainly at the counties, Catherine Beeler and Todd Lehu, and all the staff. They were leading a lot of the communications, and Tia Fraser-Dupuis was leading all the communications on our end, so thank you for that. OPP Mark Hemrick, so we have Mark come to our meetings, but also Matt Emer was in the command center in Cornwall, so thanks for the OPP. They did a lot of traffic control. Coming south in the afternoon and then going north in the evening. And we did have a really good success with the Reno St. Lawrence Parks with Carly Smalko and Tracy Ogilvie, led by Holly Hugh with the parks. And we did have we had a tourist booth set up, so along with the counties and some other groups at the park, so all the visitors that were in Upper Canada Village area at Chrysler Farm had the opportunity to see our booth. Director Jansen and Emily Palmer was there manning the booth, so talking lots about South Dundas, and then obviously all the folks that were just in town got to see us from a point at Iroquois or that. And lastly, we did have excellent work with Jean Duray and John Sebastian Aubin-Morin with the St. Lawrence River Management System, so up at the locks. So obviously that's a federal property, so we did work extensively with them to make sure we had the right facility set up in lieu to that, and it was a great location. Deputy Mayor St. Pierre and myself, CEO Mills, did tour the entire municipality twice during the day, and we're part of all the emergency acts. So I want to thank everybody on that. I think that was a really well-planned event and went really well. So any comments on the Eclipse Day that got captured? Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Brown. Did they get a final number of people that went to St. Lawrence Parks? It was advertised as
Yeah, so
maybe 10,000.
Yeah, so we have 1,100 parking spots. I don't know if we have an actual number yet. I didn't see that published. We did ask for, as you know, on Highway 31 and County Road 1, there are currently SD and G counters on the road, so we were going to get the numbers to see how many vehicles traveled south into the two municipalities. So that'll give us a rough idea, at least on traffic on that day, coming north and south. But yeah, certainly, there were thousands and thousands of people for sure. Yeah, yep. Okay, very good. That was it on the management control group side. BIA annual general meeting, Councillor Vino.
Yeah, so last night was the BIA's AGM. We had a whole board there. The whole board was there, along with 3 other stakeholders from the BIA. It was the last meeting for our outgoing chair, David Lapp. He's moving out of that position. And we were to hold election last night for all of the chair positions, but we've deferred that until we can get a better sense of the BIA's general direction. On that note, so the BIA is coming up with a survey that is going to be going out to every business within the BIA group. And that survey is kind of just to gauge the feel for the direction of the BIA so that a report can be brought back to us with the financials, the survey information, and everything that was said and talked about at the AGM, because we did have some good conversation last night about that. So there's going to be a lot of information forthcoming to council about the direction, or I guess maybe the, not request, but
the data
where they want to go, where we should go with this. So yeah, that was pretty much what came out of that last night.
All right.
And as for the, I know I'm
Waterfront,
so I was actually traveling for work, and so I did miss that meeting. However, I do know one thing that came out of it is they're still working. So for the next meeting, we're going to have a plan for public consultation for parking options down there. So we're trying to figure out right now the best avenue to go about that, how far the reach is, just how to do it. So that is forthcoming as well.
Very good. Okay, any other board or committees to report back on? All right, consent agenda, 10A, the council remuneration expenses for 2023. B, province-wide changes to ambulance dispatch. C, information from the South Nation Conservation Board Directors Meeting. D, resolution Town of Erie conservation request to amend the deadline, the Heritage Act. E, resolution City of Brantford home heating sustainability. F, resolution Township of Whitewater Region highway infrastructure. Have a motion that under the general consent agenda, these be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. Any discussion items? We didn't call any out specifically. I know we have a couple of discussion items under notice of motion as they're returning to us. So first one is a request to the province to amend the blue box regulation for ineligible source. So last time Councillor Ward had asked me brought that forward. We do have a resolution to read. So I can start off by reading the resolution, then we won't have any discussion. We can. So whereas the Ontario Regulation 391-21 blue box producers are fully accountable and financially responsible for their products and packaging once they reach their life end and are disposed of for eligible sources only, and whereas ineligible sources where producers are not responsible for including businesses, places of worship, daycares, campgrounds, public facing and internal areas of municipal-owned buildings, not-for-profit organizations such as shelters and food banks. And whereas should a municipality continue to provide services to be ineligible sources, the municipality will be required to oversee the collection, transportation, processing, and recycling, assuming 100% of these costs. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation Municipality of South Dundas hereby request the province amend Ontario Regulation Blue Box so the producers are responsible for the life end management of recycling products from all sources, and that further Council hereby requests the support of the Ontario municipalities. And furthermore, this resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Andrea Calhoun, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Honourable Graydon Smith, Minister of National Forestry, and all other municipalities. So that's a resolution moving forward. One comment I did want to make is, as we've discussed in our landfill conversations, obviously, and what were happening, and we opted out, is the intent of the new law was Ontario, which today splits costs between municipal and taxpayers and the producers. We were to move to a new system that requires the producers to pay for and operate the system to achieve the provinces, right? So if we're in a conundrum, because today we pick up all the blue box situation, and then in the future, we're not supposed to, right, do that. We're not supposed to physically do that. So this resolution, I think, is really important, and I think we need to stay active on that going forward, as tough choices are going to have to be made on how does someone get their recyclables picked up if they're not within the pickup area that's regulated. Sure, yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'm not saying amend this, but I believe MPP Nolan Quinn should be sent this.
Right, okay. Yep.
I will amend it
Yep.
to.
Yep. Okay. I'll add it on here. Yep. So, Mills, you want to add anything on? I know lots of discussion.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, just for council and the general public, we did meet with MPP Nolan Quinn last Friday, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and myself, to express our concerns about the legislation. MPP Quinn actually sat on a working group that traveled the province last summer, and he heard loud and clear that the concerns that we're bringing forward are common amongst most municipalities. I actually also spoke to the president of HTC today, looking for answers as to what they are expecting to do and not do, and there aren't any clear answers there, but it is a concern when we're planning as staff for eventually the rollout on January 1st as to what we can do and what we can't do. The other thing to bring to council's attention is that there are going to be proctors or stewards that are going to go around and inspect, while the third-party providers or the companies that are hired by the province are going to be doing the recycling on our behalf. And that would be out of our control as to what is picked up and not picked up by the provider if that's done and followed through on.
Yeah, very good. And I think it'll be important for us, the countywide control group that's been meeting, and I think they had a meeting today on that, so it'll be interesting for us to get a report at county council, hopefully very soon. Maybe we're there Monday, we can request that report where we're going, because we need to be consistent throughout the county potentially, or at least understand what our neighbors are doing, or what other municipalities will do in Ontario.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is there'll be an information report that goes to county council in May, and that you'll be able to then pull and discuss.
Very good. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, it would really be nice for the whole thing if, the average person didn't see a change whatsoever. It just if HGC or whoever your provider is just keeps doing the same thing they've always been doing, it just changes who pays who. And long story short, at the end of the day, if whatever doesn't get picked up is going to end up in a landfill. So it's in everybody's best interest.
Right. And landfill, or we'll be paying, so another thing that gets downloaded, right, from us, which is not the intent, it clearly said, right, is we're to eliminate that cost, so we need to keep the pressure on for sure at all our avenues, for sure. Yeah, no, excellent comment. Any other comments, questions? Okay, just have a motion to have this resolution signed off, moved by Councillor Ward, thank you, Deputy Mayor, seconded, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for pulling that from the last agenda, Councillor Ward, and moving that forward as a resolution. And then one, Councillor Smith had noted, we pulled through a recommendation that we'd seen from other municipalities about the combined Roma Ogre conferences, so we do have a resolution as well, and I'll just read the resolution again. Whereas as past attendee combined conferences, it makes great sense for the Ontario Good Roads Association and Roma Rural Ontario Municipal Association conferences be returned to a combined effort, not only financially for the municipalities, but also availability for participation of members of council and staff. And whereas these conferences afford a vital opportunity for delegations of members of a provincial parliament, returning to a combined conference provides a better to their availability and participation. And whereas during the 2019 OGRA Conference, AGM resolution was passed regarding the reestablishment of a combined conference for both OGRA and Roma. And whereas it is understandable that little movement has happened since the resolution at the 2019 OGRA Conference, AGM was passed due to delays of COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas not all persons who wish to attend can do so in person, that a hybrid participation option be considered for sessions. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of South Dundas call upon Roma and OGRA boards to reestablish a combined OGRA-Roma annual conference. Furthermore, this resolution forward to Premier Doug Ford, Minister Paul Calandry, and circulated to the municipalities of Ontario as presented. Any discussion on the resolution? Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, again, just forward to, and I guess maybe I'm just wondering why we would be forwarding this to the Premier Doug Ford or the Minister when it's really Roma and OGRA that's dictating whether they have a joint conference or a separate conference. Should we not just be, or could we include the committees or the ward representation, representatives be included in this motion?
Through you, Mayor Broad, I think what we could do to amend the resolution is we would include, so that this resolution be forwarded to Premier Ford, Minister Calandra, and the Roma and OGRA boards.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great. And AMO as well.
And AMO.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay, having heard the resolution, someone make the motion to pass this along. Councillor Smith, thank you very much. Seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any notices of motion to make? All right, seeing none, I have a ratification bylaw, but bylaw number 2024-30, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt by resolution, be read and passed, open council, signed and sealed, moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Smith. All in favor? Carried. And a motion that council now adjourn to be called of the chair. Councillor Smith, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, all in favor? Carried. So as we bring the regular council meeting to a close for Wednesday, April 10th, certainly winter is coming to spring, and quite a few events over the last week. Just want to highlight a few, and I already highlighted all but the clips, but just a few things. I know minor hockey wrapped up last week, so thanks to all the volunteers and coaches and trainers and referees and parents that drove their kids to and from the arena to work or play. Mooresburg Skating Club had an amazing show, and the pictures from that and the feedback from Saturday or Sunday, the year-end show was fantastic, so thanks to all the volunteers at the Mooresburg Skating Club. Williamsburg Scouts had a timber car race, their first annual. I wasn't able to be there, but that's something I'm putting on my calendar for next year. I'd like to see these races, so that was really cool. Certainly Easter events, so I know Councillor Ward was involved a little bit with some Easter events. Iroquois, Williamsburg, Matilda, Easter egg hunt, so thanks to all the volunteers in those communities. And lastly, I'd like to thank the 11 models from the fundraiser at the Community Hub, especially Councillor Ward for sponsoring a table and convincing us all to participate. MP Eric Duncan, MPP Nolan Quinn, Councillor Smith, Councillor Vino, Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, Eldon Horner, Barry Fawcett, Jim Mustard, Glenn Swartfigger, Jack Barkley, and myself. So thank you to all those folks that have stepped up for a great cause. We raised over $10,000 for the Community Hub here in Mooresburg, and certainly looking forward to next year's theme and next year's models that step up to participate in that. So thank you guys, thank you ladies, for everybody that was involved. So I get to for an evening say good night.